I am pregnant with Kevin's child. In the conference room. The man sitting in the main seat raised an eyebrow. 1 million just buys these things? Is this children's stick figure drawing by Cindy for the child? At this time, the expression on his face is 3 parts sneering, 4 parts contemptuous, and extremely annoying. It's for your son. After I finished speaking, the conference room fell into a deathly silence. Just when I thought that Kevin should leave a sentence to terminate the cooperation and then leave angrily. Who knows that not only is he not angry, but he speaks lightly instead. What? Are you pregnant? I wanted to continue to retort. But this time he was right. I am really pregnant. I am pregnant. The child is from my high school classmate Kevin. Looking at the report in my hand, I haven't fully recovered. No way. Got pregnant just once? No wonder I have felt a little uncomfortable these days and have nausea and the urge to vomit. I thought it was the after effect of overtime. After all, a design company is really like playing with one's life. It wasn't until my mobile phone app reminded me that my menstrual period had been delayed for 10 days that I realized that my period hadn't come this month. Although it's not very accurate. It has never been delayed for so long. Before coming to the hospital, I also comforted myself that it might just be an accident. The probability is like buying a lottery ticket. Unfortunately, I won. In the consulting room is a female doctor. Are you married? I shook my head. Do you have a boyfriend? The female doctor continued to shake her head. It should be irregular menstruation. Don't be too nervous. Her fingers tapped quickly on the keyboard. I took a light deep breath. Doctor. I have had sexual intercourse recently. As soon as I finished speaking, I saw the doctor's originally gentle face wrinkled into a ball, and her hand movements also stopped. Outside the laboratory, I looked at the column on the HCG report that was obviously higher than the normal level and touched my lower abdomen. My mind recalled the scene of that day again. I opened my phone and searched, does having sex after drinking have an impact on the fetus? Yes. Kevin and I had sex after drinking on the night of the high school reunion. I believe that if it weren't for this episode, Kevin and I might never have any intersection in this life. Some answers on the internet say it can cause birth defects, and some say that it's not a big problem if it's just once. Just when I was about to click on another answer, the person inside the consulting room came out and it was my turn. You are pregnant. The doctor sitting behind the computer pushed her glasses and looked at me somewhat disappointed. I hesitated and told her about having had a little alcohol. I spoke carefully. Doctor. In this case, is the child. I couldn't bear to say the rest of the words. I don't recommend you abort this child. The doctor pushed her glasses again. I looked at her with some confusion and worry. You young girls really think that's just a small operation? Girls still need to learn to protect themselves. The doctor sighed heavily. There was helplessness in her tone. The best way for a woman to take care of herself is to take care of the uterus and not have an abortion easily. If you abort this child now, who knows if you can get pregnant again in the future? The doctor's words were rather sharp. It can be seen that she was angry at my behavior of not taking good care of my body. Keep it for now, and have regular checkups. If there is any abnormality, then choose to give up. The doctor's words kept echoing in my mind. I took the report sheet and returned home in a daze. It took me a long time to come to my senses. There is already a little life in here. Why don't you turn on the light when you are at home? You scared me. Sylvia's sharp voice accompanied by the light rang in the living room. I turned to look at her. There was an obvious crying tone in my voice. Sylvia. What's wrong with you? Don't scare me. Sylvia was confused by my reaction. Thinking that she had just scared me, she kept apologizing to me. I told her about the child. She immediately jumped up from the sofa. Cindy. Say that again? She probably had the same reaction as I did in the afternoon and was stunned by this news. I am pregnant. Although I accepted this fact, my tone still trembled a little. Because I am not ready to be a mother at all. At the same time, the child in my belly may face not having a father. You are really capable. In just one day, a child pops up. Whose child is it? Sylvia took a sip of water. Her tone was a bit milder than before. Do you remember there was a person named Kevin in our high school class? That rich second-generation handsome guy who went abroad to study in his sophomore year? Sylvia tilted her head and quickly remembered this person. Sure enough. People like Kevin are destined to be unforgettable. Family background, appearance, and ability are all top-notch. Why mention him? Isn't it his? I saw Sylvia's expression change from confusion to shock. I nodded honestly and leaned on the sofa in a somewhat decadent way, only to hear Sylvia keep muttering beside me. This world is too magical. This is too outrageous. Today is not April Fool's Day. She took out my test report from her bag and looked at it again. Somewhat resignedly, she leaned on the sofa like me. What are you going to do? I shook my head. I don't know what to do now either. I repeated word for word what the doctor said in the afternoon. She is my best friend since high school and the person I trust the most. Nowadays, it's quite popular to keep the child, and not the father. Kevin has such good genes. It's not a waste to give birth. She suddenly turned her head and was a bit more excited than before. I think I must be crazy. Because I really considered this idea. Having a delicate baby without an annoying man seems not bad either. I am going to keep this child. If the Song family knows. Can't you marry into a wealthy family? Sylvia looked at my belly as if she had discovered some new world. It's not so easy to marry into a wealthy family. Those celebrities have given birth to who knows how many children for wealthy families and still haven't been able to squeeze in even a bit. I laughed at her for thinking too much. I haven't thought about the idea of relying on a child to gain status. I don't even want Kevin to know about the existence of this child. In case he finds out and wants to fight me for child custody. Won't I become a free uterus? Then it will be a case of trying to gain an advantage but ending up worse off. But I'm not worried that he will find out. Probably he doesn't even know who I am. We don't even have the most basic contact information, let alone have any intersection. After making this decision, the stone weighing on my heart was relieved a lot. I even looked forward to the birth of this child. I took 2 days off and did some parenting strategies at home. After reading it, I only had one thought. Raising a child is really expensive. On the afternoon of the second day of my leave, I received a call from Sean. He asked me to go back to the company. Sean is my partner and also my college classmate. This design company was founded by the two of us after graduating from college. At the beginning, it was just him and me. He was in charge of business and I was in charge of design. The year before last, we rented an office in Huiyan Innovation Park and recruited a few people. Now it is a startup company. I will go to work next Monday. I looked at the newly done nails on my hand and thought about taking them off later. Grandma, it's extremely urgent. People from Yanhua will come to sign the contract this afternoon. If you are not here, no one can hold the fort. Sean was extremely anxious on the other end. It can be seen that he is really in a hurry. They agreed? I sat up abruptly from the sofa. After realizing it, I touched my lower abdomen again. Sorry, baby. Mommy was rude. But Yanhua offers so much. Mommy makes money to raise you. They haven't fully agreed yet. They want to see your preliminary research. $1 million design fee. They are not fools. Isn't the person in charge your high school classmate? The reason why we were able to connect with Yanhua this time is because Sean's high school classmate is a supervisor in the design department of Yanhua. This time their boss comes in person. I heard Sean sigh. The boss? It should be the director of the design department. Thinking about it, the people in the company may not be able to handle it for sure. Later, I realized that I had thought too simply. The boss Sean mentioned is the boss of Yanhua's R&D department. The vice president of Yanhua Group. No wonder Sean, who is always like a social butterfly, would also be timid that day. I grabbed a bag and hurried out. I called a car while waiting for the elevator. My car was driven out by Sylvia in the morning. Today, it seems extremely difficult to get a taxi. There was also an accident on the road and there was a short traffic jam. By the time I arrived at the company, people from Yanhua had already arrived. Going up to the second floor podium from the outer stairs of the building in the Innovation Park. As soon as you go up, the outermost part is our company. I glanced inside through the transparent glass wall. The conference room on the outermost side was already full of people. Sitting in the main seat is a man in a neat suit. Judging from his figure, he should be over 1.8 meters tall. His slender fingers tapped a few times on the conference table. This figure seems a bit familiar, but I can't remember where I've seen it. However, his face is just blocked by the frosted part of the decoration. Even so, one can see that his temperament is unique. This should be the boss of Yanhua, I thought to myself. Using the glass wall as a mirror, I quickly took a look. I gently breathed a sigh of relief. It was still decent. Sorry everyone. I encountered some things. I'm a bit late. For the latter half of the sentence, I almost spat out each word like a machine, because I saw clearly the face that was blocked from view when looking from outside just now. Isn't this Kevin? My first reaction was to run. But then I thought it was wrong. This is my territory. And it seems that he doesn't even remember me at all. There was no abnormality on his face. He just nodded slightly. I cursed him as a scumbag in my heart. He could do that without even knowing who it was. Truly, appearances can be deceiving. But thinking of the design fee offered by Yanhua, I endured it. If this deal is closed, there will be money for my son's milk powder. Sean gave me a look. I sat down on the position to the right of Kevin. I had already sorted out the design preliminary research report long ago. I connected it to the projector and started to explain. About 20 minutes passed. After the explanation, the conference room was silent. Is it going to fail? A long string of numbers instantly turned to 0 in my mind. I quietly put my hand on my lower abdomen. Sorry, baby. It's all because your mother is incompetent and can't let you drink high-end milk powder. When can you submit the manuscript? Just when I thought it was a wasted trip. A cold voice rang out in the quiet conference room. So, is this past? 1 month. Sean answered first. I glared at him. He really treats me like a donkey in a production team. For the sake of making money. He really has no conscience at all. How long does Cindy think is appropriate? Kevin ignored Sean and gave me a faint glance. I originally wanted to say 3 months. But under his eyes without any warmth, I said 2 months with a stiff head. In the past, 2 months would definitely be no problem. At that time, I could draw until early morning. But now I'm not so sure because the baby in my belly is more important. I'll give you 3 months. In 3 months, I want the finished drawings and source files of all design schemes. I raised an eyebrow and felt that Kevin wasn't as difficult to deal with as Sean said on the phone just now. Okay. Happy cooperation. Kevin. I habitually stretched out my hand. Just when I thought Kevin probably wouldn't shake my hand and was about to withdraw it awkwardly, a pair of big hands with distinct joints gently held my hand. His tone was without any fluctuation. Happy cooperation. Cindy. His hand was as cold as he was. The coldness spread from my palm to my whole body. It seemed that I had overestimated his kindness just now. When I went back, I told Sylvia about Yanhua. She had only 1 sentence. This is really outrageous. He doesn't even know who he slept with. He's clearly a scumbag. Sylvia was full of contempt. I hesitated and told her another thing about that day. In fact, I took the wrong room card that day. I took Sunny's. Sylvia burst out a series of encrypted words. Cindy, are there any more things that challenge the limits of humanity that you haven't said? Let me die a quick death today. Looking at her expression of heroic sacrifice, I shook my head. This is really all. After a long time, she seemed to sort it out. So he didn't recognize you. Maybe it's because he thought he slept with Sunny? I nodded. Judging from his reaction today, I guessed like this. 2 weeks later. Yunhua building. My grandma. Be careful. Don't be like Grandma Yu entering the Grandview garden. Sean gently supported my shoulder. Just now I didn't pay attention to my feet and sprained my high heels. Just then, Kevin came out of the office and met his somewhat chilly eyes. 1 million just buys these things? Is this children's stick figure drawing by Cindy for the child? Kevin, sitting in the main seat, gave me a faint glance. At this time, the expression on his face is 3 parts sneering, 4 parts contemptuous, and extremely annoying. It's for your son. After I finished speaking, the conference room fell into a deathly silence. Probably no one expected that I would retort. Sean, sitting opposite me, was almost having a spasm in his eyes. I am the kind of person who allows you to ask me to revise the manuscript. But you can't insult me. Just when I thought that Kevin should leave a sentence to terminate the cooperation and then leave angrily. Who knows that not only is he not angry, but he speaks slightly instead. What? Are you pregnant? I wanted to continue to retort. But this time he was right. I am really pregnant. Looking at his playful look, I was furious. Kevin. Sorry. Our company only cooperates with people of good character. After throwing this sentence, I left. It wasn't until I reached downstairs that I calmed down. I was really stupid with anger just now. 1 million. That's a full 1 million. When Sean went downstairs, I was in a daze by the flower bed on the side of the road. Grandma. Why are you crying? At worst, we don't want this project anymore. Am I crying? I reached out and touched my cheek. It was indeed wet. I don't know why when I think of being pregnant with his child and still being laughed at by him, I feel wronged. Obviously this child is what I want to give birth to secretly. But I still can't help being sad. Sean and I both thought this project was ruined. For several days in a row, Sean sighed in the office at work. Until it was almost time to get off work on Wednesday. I heard his loud voice penetrate the whole company. Cindy. Yunhua called and said to continue the cooperation. They asked if we have time to visit their production line tomorrow. Also, Kevin said to apologize to you. He offended you that day. I thought I had heard wrong. With Kevin's cold look, would he still apologize? I guess it's probably his subordinates who said it casually to give us some face. I'm not feeling well. I'll take a leave tomorrow. You guys go. Thinking of Kevin's annoying expression that day. I don't want to see him now. Also, I have had severe morning sickness recently. The smell in the factory is too strong. Although Kevin doesn't know about this at all. It's better to be careful. Thursday morning. Looking at the black car and the eye-catching car logo in front of me, I cursed Sean countless times in my heart. How could he give Kevin my home address? Kevin. I have my own car. Get in the car. Kevin's tone was irresistibly strong. Looking at the driver who was almost sweating standing aside, I finally got in the car. The interior space of the car is large. I deliberately keep a distance from him. After getting in the car, Kevin starts to close his eyes and rest. Really not feeling well? I don't know when Kevin has opened his eyes. The hand holding the medicine bottle paused for a moment. I nodded and then quickly took out one and put it in my mouth. This is actually folic acid tablets prescribed by the doctor. It is said to have the effect of preventing fetal malformations. I saw him frown. Don't you know how to take care of your own body? It's none of your business? I gave him a blank look. I am like this because of him. Cindy. You will drive me to death sooner or later. I heard Kevin speak with gritted teeth. It seemed that he was really angry. He even called me by my name directly. I ignored him and started to close my eyes and rest. Recently, I feel like I can never get enough sleep. I heard a helpless sigh from beside me. Then a blanket was gently placed on me. Yunhua's factory is not far from the headquarters we visited last time. The several 100-meter-long production line really shocked me a bit. Your designs are not bad, but they lack implementably. Kevin's cold voice rang above my head. I was about to speak, when a wave of nausea came. I rushed to the trash can on the side in a flurry and etched. A big hand gently stroked my back. I heard Kevin ask someone to bring water. I'll take you to the hospital. As soon as I recovered, I was pulled downstairs by Kevin holding my wrist. Thinking of the baby in my belly. I can't go to the hospital with him. If I go to the hospital, it will be exposed. Really not going? Kevin lowered his head and frowned slightly. I nodded like a chicken pecking at rice. Cindy, you are really not worrying at all. This is the second time Kevin has called me by my name today. Compared to the gritted teeth just now, this time there is more helplessness. And even a hint of doting? When the word doting appeared in my mind, I thought I was crazy. When the car stopped downstairs at my house again, it was 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I was about to go to the company, but after what happened in the morning, Kevin directly sent me home. I was about to open the door and get out of the car when my wrist was gently hooked. I looked at Kevin suspiciously. His long finger was quickly withdrawn. He coughed lightly. You have a good rest. Don't worry about the design manuscript for now. Kevin, don't worry. I will abide by the contract. Also, thank you, Kevin, for sending me back. With a decent smile, I got out of the car. This visit back was very rewarding for us. Just as Kevin said, our ideas didn't consider the actual production in the factory. The second round draft was quickly passed. Sean, Cindy, stay and have a meal together. It was already 6 o'clock in the afternoon when the proposal was completed. The one who spoke was Kevin's assistant Chuck. I followed behind Kevin. Sean was chatting happily with Chuck and several others on one side. Are you feeling better? A cold voice with a hint of concern came from above. I looked up and met Kevin's eyes without any waves. It has to be said that Kevin is really good looking. His facial features are as three-dimensional as if carved. If the child looks like this in the future. Kevin coughed lightly to interrupt my thoughts. I nodded guiltily. I'm fine already. That's good. His expression seemed to relax. I suddenly felt that Kevin didn't seem so annoying. After having a meal. It was already dark. In Yangchang in October. It was already a bit chilly. When I went out in the morning, I was wearing a thin knitted dress. When the wind blew on me, I unconsciously hugged my arms. A coat with remaining warmth was gently placed on my shoulders. Still carrying a somewhat familiar smell. Kevin was backlit by the street lamp. The light scattered from above his head, casting his shadow on me. He lowered his head and tittied the somewhat long suit jacket for me while speaking. Don't torture your body for the sake of looking good. I don't know if it was because the dim yellow street lamp was to warm more than night wind was too gentle. I actually felt that Kevin was a bit gentle at this moment. Cindy, I suddenly have something to do and can't send you home. Kevin, please trouble you to send Cindy back. Sean's loud voice pulled me back to reality. At this moment, I just wanted to find a crack in the ground to hide. Before I could speak, that guy quickly got into the car and drove away in a flash. This is what it means to have an untrustworthy friend. Watching Sean's taillights disappear, I couldn't help secretly regretting that I shouldn't have taken the easy way and let Sean give me a ride on the way in the morning. Let's go. Kevin opened the car door. His voice was much softer than before. His sudden change made me a bit uncomfortable. I didn't dare to look at him and hurriedly got into the car. Pregnant women are prone to sleepiness. I fell asleep soon after getting in the car. When I woke up, the car had already stopped downstairs in the community. I was about to get out of the car after saying goodbye to Kevin when I was stopped by him. Cindy, don't you have anything you want to say to me? Kevin slightly turned sideways. His elbow was casually placed on the steering wheel. His deep eyes were unfathomable. I didn't know what he meant by suddenly asking this. I shook my head honestly. No. As soon as I finished speaking, I heard him sigh softly. I don't know if it was my illusion. I saw a trace of loneliness in Kevin's eyes. Kevin today is abnormal. Go upstairs and rest early. Don't catch a cold. Kevin's voice is actually very pleasant to hear. It is a typical deep bass. A simple sentence made my heart start to beat chitically. I said, "Kevin, be careful," and hurriedly got out of the car. When I got home, I found that I had left my bag in Kevin's car. But when I went downstairs, Kevin was already gone. At night, I had a dream. In the dream, Kevin took away the child and married Sunny. Cindy, your son calls me mom now. Sunny's face was smiling so much that it was almost distorted. I suddenly woke up. I touched my still flat lower abdomen. It was a false alarm. Fortunately, it was just a dream. After getting off work on Friday, as soon as I got out of the elevator of the building in the community, I saw Kevin standing at my door. I didn't react for a moment. The man was tall and slender, wearing a decent dark suit. It seemed that he had come from a formal occasion. As the voice-activated light went off, in the slightly dim corridor, his eyes made me feel a bit terrifying. Glancing at a lady's bag in his hand, it was the one I left in his car yesterday. He was so angry. Probably because I made him make an extra trip. Thank you for making a trip, Kevin. I smiled sheepishly and reached out to take the bag. Kevin slightly turned sideways. My hand missed. I looked at him in confusion. He still didn't move. He just looked at me with his terrifying eyes as if he wanted to see through me. After a long time, I heard him speak. His tone seemed to be suppressing something deliberately. Cindy, I'll ask you one last time. Do you have anything you are hiding from me? I had already answered this question yesterday. But facing his oppressive and direct eyes, I felt a bit guilty. Thinking of that dream last night, I deliberately changed the topic. What could I be hiding from you? At most, I charged a bit more for the design fee. If Kevin thinks it's expensive, you can terminate the cooperation. I saw his chest heaving. It seemed that he was very angry. Cindy, you really haven't changed at all. You are so stubborn. Kevin was so angry that he laughed. Those words were almost squeezed out from between his teeth. It could be heard that he was really angry. I saw him take out a piece of paper from his straight suitcase pocket and unfold it. There were dense data on it. That was my examination report. What does this mean, Kevin? I pretended to be calm on the surface. But in fact, my mind was blank. That dream from last night kept appearing in my mind. Cindy, I really will be driven to death by you sooner or later. He said this last time too. Did this child pop up out of nowhere for you? When Kevin said this, the anger on his face hadn't dissipated. Alarm bells rang in my heart. Kevin, what you said is so funny. Even if I am pregnant, what does it have to do with you? I wanted to snatch the report, but unfortunately Kevin held it too high. I couldn't get it at all. Instead, because I was in a hurry and didn't stand firmly, I knocked into him. I heard him let out a sneer. Immediately, my waist tightened. It has nothing to do with me? Can you get pregnant alone? My mind went blank. I realized that I had been tricked by Kevin. So he already knew it was me that night. If it weren't for this child, he wouldn't be willing to admit it at all? Is he afraid that I will use the child to threaten him and he can't hold back? Or is it that he doesn't want the Song family's flesh and blood to be left outside? But in any case, I won't allow it. I don't want my child to feel redundant when he is born or come into this world with some purpose. I hope he can grow up in love. Can't it be with someone else? I pushed him away hard and looked at him. How dare you? Kevin almost spoke through gritted teeth. There was an unhidden warning in his tone. Why wouldn't I dare? I just found it a bit funny. He could mess around after drinking. And now he suddenly started to control me. Cindy, I think you are really stubborn until you see the coffin. Since you are so sure, just go to the hospital and check. Don't you know? Kevin sneered instead of getting angry. But his smile made me feel even more creepy. I can't go to the hospital with him. Once I go to the hospital and check, it will be known that the child is his. Whether he will take the child back to the Song family in the future or not let me keep it. I can't bear it. In these 2 months, I have already accepted the existence of this child. Although he is not fully formed yet, I know that I love him. I won't allow anyone to take him away from me. Why wouldn't you dare? Kevin sneered. His long finger casually folded the report in his hand. His expression slowly coincided with the scene in my memory. Memories from a long time ago emerged. The teenager also sneered like this. The memories were like a blunt knife, slowly cutting back and forth on my heart. It wasn't very painful but very tormenting. I took a deep breath and looked up with deliberately feigned ease. Kevin, you can't naively think that I have kept your child. Kevin's movements stopped. His beautiful eyes narrowed. Obviously, he hadn't reacted yet. First of all, you and I are not familiar, let alone in love. If it weren't for this child, I guess Kevin wouldn't be willing to admit what happened that day. Right? I saw his face darken by 1 degree. There was an extremely dangerous aura emanating from his eyes. There is no turning back once the bow is drawn. I could only continue to speak with a stiff upper lip. Second, how we had a relationship that day. I think you should know. So please tell me. Kevin, what's the reason for keeping this child? I tried my best to look indifferent. I saw that Kevin's face had completely darkened. He should be extremely angry. He said several Cindy. You are really heartless. In a row. I watched his angry figure leave. Until the elevator door closed completely. I seemed to be completely deflated. I could barely stand by leaning against the wall. If Kevin stayed for 1 more second, my collapse would be unable to be hidden. I thought that after this time, he should hate me extremely. Who knew that when I went to work on Monday, I saw a familiar car downstairs in the community. The car window was half open, revealing Kevin's good-looking face. Unlike the usual coldness, there was visible fatigue. Get in the car. His voice was different from the sharpness and strength of that day. Instead, there was a kind of loneliness and vulnerability. My heart involuntarily ached for a moment. As if by some strange force, I got into the car. He took out an exquisite bag from the side. Inside were various breakfasts. Thank you. Kevin ignored me and just concentrated on driving. At noon, as usual, I was about to go to the cafeteria in the industrial park with my colleagues. As soon as I went out, I saw Kevin standing outside. Now it is lunchtime for various companies. Kevin is outstanding in appearance. People passing by keep looking at him secretly. He was holding 2 exquisite craft paper bags. One of them had the name of the dessert shop that I eat most often. He strode over and, regardless of the crowd, pulled my wrist and walked downstairs. Don't look anymore. Let's go eat. Let's go eat. I heard Sean's loud voice ringing behind me. I only felt that my earlobes were extremely hot. I forgot to shake off his hand. Don't eat those unnutritious things in the future. Miscarriage is not a small matter. Also, pay attention to daily warmth preservation. Kevin opened the lunchbox while giving instructions. He seemed to be in a better state than in the morning, but he still couldn't hide his fatigue. That day I just made up eye to avoid entangling with him. I didn't expect him to take it seriously. I nodded wouldn't lie. Looking at his sudden care, I felt a little guilty inside. But I comforted myself that I didn't eat this for free. It was for his child. In the next month, Kevin picked me up and dropped me off from work without fail every day. He also delivered 3 meals a day to the company. When I got up in the morning and looked at my lower abdomen that already showed a slight sign of bulge in the mirror, I couldn't continue like this. If Kevin found out that I had lied to him. Thinking of his angry look that night, a chill suddenly rose behind me. At noon, Kevin packed up the table where I had used, and took out a wet tissue to carefully wipe my hands. What do you want to eat tonight? He lowered his head. His long eyelashes covered his black eyes, looking down along his tall and straight nose. It was his slightly parted thin lips. Some images couldn't help but appear in my mind. There was a feeling of heat on my face. I haven't thought about it. I turned my head and naturally, the words that I had rehearsed countless times in my heart changed again, when they reached my mouth. Okay. Send me a message when you think of it. Go upstairs and rest. He rubbed my head. There was a faint smile in his eyes. At first, I refused his actions. But eating people's food makes one feel indebted. Taking people's things makes one feel soft. Now I am already used to it. In the afternoon, I received a call from Sunny. She invited me to meet at a coffee shop in the industrial park. When I arrived at the coffee shop, she was already waiting for me. She was wearing a long white dress. She had heavy makeup on her face. There was a strong perfume smell on her body. The moment I got close, a discomfort came from my stomach. Cindy. I won't beat around the bush. I know it was you who took the room card on the day of the class reunion. She put her bag on the table and revealed a big logo. I didn't explain because what she said was the truth. I raised an eyebrow and waited for her to continue. I hope you don't pester Kevin anymore. Because he and I are about to get engaged. I believe that with your character. You don't want to be a mistress either. She stretched out her finger with bright red nail polish and showed a shiny ring. There was obvious sneering on her face. For a moment, I was stunned, thinking of Kevin's still faintly smiling face at noon. I felt a bit blocked. I know he has been accompanying you recently. He told me that he accidentally made you pregnant and had a miscarriage. It's just out of guilt. Actually, I already knew that Kevin was only acting out of guilt towards me. But when it was said by others, I still felt a little sad. Are you sure I am pestering him? If you came to me just to say these boring words, then I'm sorry I don't have time to listen. I ignored Sunny's yelling behind me and went straight back to the office. Oh, Grandma. What's wrong with you? You came back so angry after going out. Did your Kevin offend you today? Sean sat casually on my desk with a nonchalant look. Don't link me and Kevin. I gave him a blank look and continued to organize the documents. Tomorrow will be the final complete proposal for the Yunhua project. You two are so obvious and still don't let people talk. Hey. How did you and Kevin get together? Sean is just asking for a beating. I ignored him and got up to get the freshly printed renderings. After getting off work in the afternoon, I deliberately dawdled for a while. I sent a message to Kevin in advance saying that I don't need him to pick me up from work today. Kevin didn't reply. I thought he had already gone back. But when I went out, I saw him leaning against the corridor outside the company and looking at his phone on the handrail. Finished? He put his phone in his pocket and walked over. He habitually reached out to take my bag. I changed hands and made him miss. What's wrong? Perhaps noticing that I was unhappy. Kevin frowned his handsome eyebrows. There was some confusion on his face. I thought of what Sunny said in the afternoon and the ring on her hand. He was about to get engaged, and still showed up in front of me. As a result, I was put on the hat of a mistress. So I ignored Kevin and went downstairs angrily. Several times he tried to hold me, but I broke free. When I wanted to shake off Kevin again, he had already predicted it in advance. He directly put his arm around my waist and pressed me tightly against his chest. He lowered his head. His eyebrows were slightly furrowed. There was an expression on his face that I had never seen before. There was even a hint of being at a loss. If I did something wrong, you can tell me directly. I suddenly felt that I seemed to be making a fuss for no reason. I was the one who lied to him. I was also the one who enjoyed the benefits brought by his guilt. He had no obligation to take care of my feelings. I admitted that I was jealous. Or rather, that jealousy had never stopped. Since high school, it was just that my pride made it well hidden. Kevin, don't be nice to me anymore. And you don't need to feel guilty towards me. That kind of thing is consensual. We are even. You don't tell me. I leaned against his chest and spoke feebly, trying my best to suppress the sadness in my heart. I thought Kevin would readily agree, but looking into his eyes, what I saw was the indicible loneliness in his eyes. I heard him say. Do you really not want to have anything to do with me? I very much wanted to tell him that it wasn't so. But my pride in the child in my belly didn't allow me to be put on the hat of a mistress. Your fiancé came to see me this afternoon. I think we should keep a distance. You have done enough about the child. Kevin was stunned for a moment. Obviously. He didn't expect his fiancé to come to see me. I was about to break free but was pressed back by him again. Then I heard him speak full of confusion. Fiancé? Where did I get a fiancé? Thinking of the ring on Sunny's hand. I glared at him. Sunny is already wearing a ring and you still don't admit it. You scumbag. Who knew that he was even more innocent? Who is Sunny? Now I was completely stunned. In this situation, either Sunny was lying or Kevin was lying. I really don't know who she is. What did she come to see you for? Kevin loosened his hold on my waist a little and gently wrapped me in his arms. There was no trace of lying in his tone and expression. Now it was obvious that Sunny was lying. So you were angry all afternoon because of this? Kevin reached out and gently pinched my face. I nodded honestly. Who knew she was lying to me? Cindy. I thought I had made it obvious enough. I heard Kevin sigh softly. There was some helplessness. What do you mean? My heart was beating very fast. I looked at him carefully. I heard him say, Cindy. You will drive me to death sooner or later. You always say that I will drive you to death. Why don't you say that you will drive me to death? I murmured somewhat discontentedly. Although I wasn't in the right, I was still confident. Kevin put his hand on his forehead and laughed. There was obvious helplessness on his face. The wind in early winter was a bit biting. But Kevin's next words made me feel my face burning hot. He said, I'm not doing this for compensation. Cindy. I like you. I thought I had made it obvious enough. There was a roar in my head. It was like countless fireworks exploding. Kevin just said he liked me? Perhaps because of the confession just now. Kevin turned his head and naturally. So will you be with me? At this time, he looked like a child asking for candy. There was some expectation, and some arrogance. It made people want to tease him. We don't know each other well. We don't know each other deeply enough. I raised my face, looking very serious. Who told him to tease me before? How deep is deep enough? When Kevin said this, there was a hint of mischief on his face. His voice was deliberately elongated. When I realized it, my face had already flushed red. Song Ki. I heard it. I'm not deaf. You don't need to call so loudly. Save your strength and use it in other places next time. Kevin pretended to dig his ear and had a look that was asking for a beating. My face became even redder. I stepped on him hard and pushed him away and walked away quickly. I heard his hearty laughter coming from behind. I hadn't walked far when I was pulled by him. You haven't answered my question yet. I haven't thought about it yet. I'm not being pretentious when I say this. Because I really don't know why Kevin suddenly likes me. Or maybe he mistook guilt for liking. I don't want to wait too long. Cindy. I've waited long enough. His eyes were shining like stars. I pursed my lips and nodded gently. Then I saw a smile spread across his face. When Sylvia heard about Kevin confessing to me, she just said lightly, You asked Kevin to invest money and make it into a TV series. A love story of thriller and suspense genre will definitely sell well. Sylvia, tell me, what should I do? I looked at her pitifully. I didn't expect things to develop in this direction. I remember you liked Kevin in high school, right? Now isn't it just a dream come true? Sylvia gently poked my forehead with her finger, and had a look of watching a good show. Yes. I liked Kevin since my first year of high school. That was no longer a secret in high school. But later, there were constantly new gossips emerging. No one remembered my story long ago. The proposal the next day went very smoothly. The follow-up is just some finishing work. To celebrate the perfect ending of the project, a company organized a gathering. Everyone proposed to go singing after having a meal in the afternoon. As soon as I parked my car at the entrance of the restaurant, I saw a familiar car coming over. Didn't we say it was an internal company dinner? I looked at Sean. He didn't say that he invited Kevin over. Kevin is one of us. Sean greeted Kevin. A few little girls were whispering behind. Sean is good in every way. It's just a pity that he has a big mouth. Cindy, I have to toast you. The company has depended on you for so many years. You really have worked hard. At the dinner table, Sean raised his glass. I was a bit uncomfortable with his sudden sentimentality. I picked up my juice cup and clinked it with him. Are we still brothers? Sean looked at the juice cup in my hand somewhat discontentedly. I'm not very good at drinking. I drink a little occasionally. I was thinking about how to refuse without being noticed. A pair of slender fingers took a wine glass and clinked it with him. I'll drink a glass with Sean. Kevin slightly raised his wine glass and drank all the remaining wine in the glass. Seeing Kevin being so straightforward, Sean didn't say anything. The gathering ended late at night. I looked at Kevin, who was closing his eyes and resting in the passenger seat. I quietly leaned closer. His eyelashes are really long. He is much cuter when he is asleep than when he is awake. Have you seen enough? The man's tone was with a light laugh. Who was looking at you? I sat back in a panic. Anyway, he had no evidence. I would never admit it even if I was beaten to death. Kevin didn't mention this topic again. There was still a faint smile in his beautiful eyes. Have you thought about it? What? I didn't react for a moment. What do you think? Kevin raised an eyebrow. If I said I forgot, I think he would skin me. Last night I thought a lot. I'm sure I like him. Or I have always liked him. Including that night. I also knew it was him. That's why I took advantage of being drunk and made a mistake. But I don't know if he really likes me. And I don't know why he suddenly likes me. Kevin, why do you like me? Kevin obviously didn't expect me to ask him this question. The smile on his face slowly disappeared. It was like he was trying hard to recall something. After a long while, I heard him speak. Maybe because you are a bit stupid. But you don't want to admit it yourself. I think we are not suitable. I let out a heavy breath and tried hard to hold back the mist that was rising in my eyes. He may not know how much courage I summoned to ask this sentence. I think as long as he answers seriously a little bit, I will agree. I'm not sure how much of his so-called sincerity there is. Why are you crying? I was just teasing you. Kevin probably didn't expect me to have such a big reaction. He spoke in a somewhat flustered and distressed way. I turned my head and avoided his reaching hand. Kevin, do you think it's fun to tease me? Do you want to hear the truth? She even leaned closer. He held my face with both hands and made me have to look at him. I saw in his eyes not only seriousness but also an unignorable heat. I don't know if you still remember the first year of high school. I was a bit surprised when he mentioned the first year of high school. I thought he had forgotten long ago. I didn't expect him to remember me at that time. At that time, you always wore a high ponytail, liked to wear white skirts. When you smiled, your eyes would bend into crescents. Of course, you weren't so annoying now. Kevin didn't forget to pinch my face while speaking. Could it be you liked me since then? I couldn't believe it. After all, he was always cold at that time. Kevin raised an eyebrow and didn't deny it. Then why did you embarrass me when I confessed to you? I remembered that on the evening self-study after the midterm exam, the class organized games and watched movies. Under the instigation of the crowd, I confessed to Kevin through a game. After I summoned up my courage and finished speaking, the teenager just gave me a faint glance. Then he sneered and left the classroom amid the cheers of the classmates. Don't you know what game you were playing at that time? Kevin's beautiful eyebrows wrinkled. Then he continued. Would you come to me if you didn't lose in the dare game? When he said the latter sentence, there was still some grievance. But I chose truth at that time. I smiled. But my nose was a bit sour. It turned out that he always thought I was teasing him. As soon as I finished speaking, I fell into a warm embrace. The strength was so great that it made me a bit breathless. I heard him say, "You didn't lie to me, right?" "Who lied to you?" There was still a hint of nasal sound in my words. It turns out that we have liked each other for a long time. But we both misunderstood each other's intentions. As a result, we missed so many years. I learned from Kevin that Sunny got in his car because she transferred something to him in my name. After being exposed, she had no more contact with him. Then what if I didn't take the wrong room card at the last reunion? Thinking of the oolong incident last time. If I didn't take the wrong room card, it would be Sunny who got pregnant with his child. No way. Kevin didn't seem worried at all. I didn't understand where his confidence came from. Just when I was puzzled, I heard him say, "Because I arranged it. And if I was really drunk, it wouldn't happen." I saw a hint of smugness in his eyes. "Kevin." I spoke through gritted teeth. He was really good at calculating. Later I learned that not only that night, but also the cooperation with Yen Hua later was all designed by him. It turns out that I have been played around by him all along. Be good. Don't be angry. I was wrong. It won't happen again. He rubbed the top of my head with his big hand and apologized insincerely. But thinking of the child in my belly, I felt that I didn't lose either. He also had times when he was deceived. Sure enough, when I told the truth about the child, Kevin's expression was unprecedentedly rich. After a long time, I heard him speak. His voice was obviously trembling. "Cindy. Say it again." I originally wanted to tease him. I didn't expect his reaction to be so big. I was also a bit scared. Obediently, I said it again. I said our child is still there. "You didn't lie to me, right? You didn't lie to me, right?" There was inconceivable excitement in his tone. I nodded. I was hugged by him again. This time it was even tighter. He said several great, in a row. Then I felt a liquid flowing on my neck. Kevin cried. That always cold and sharp-tongued Kevin cried. "Sorry. I didn't mean to hide it from you on purpose. I was afraid that you didn't want to keep this child. I realized that I seemed to have gone too far. I should be the one to say sorry. I was so jerk that made you mistakenly think that I didn't want him. Sorry. Baby. It won't happen again." His side face rubbed against my neck. I reached out and gently put my arms around his waist. Why does Sunny know so much about me? I remembered what Sunny said a few days ago. She knew all my actions. Chuck likes her. Kevin told me the whole story. The person who knows his schedule best is Diyuan. No wonder. It turns out that Sunny wanted to give me a warning. Dock me away and then slowly approach Kevin. Obviously, her wishful thinking was wrong. I originally wanted to send him to his place and then go home. When I called Sylvia and said that I wouldn't go back today, she just replied, "Be careful," on the other end of the phone. "Go take a bath first. Tomorrow we will get up early and go to the hospital." Kevin's eyes were full of unconcealed smiles. "Didn't you have any doubts?" I pointed to my lower abdomen that already showed signs of bulge. Kevin. Such a shrewd person. Didn't notice it either. "I thought it was because I took good care of you and you got fat." He reached out with a cautious posture, as if he was touching some rare treasure, thinking of the 3 meals he delivered on time every day. Well, it's normal for him to have such an idea. During the whole prenatal examination process, Kevin was extremely careful. I thought he was too exaggerated. "My daughter is inside. If I had known earlier, I wouldn't dare to say a harsh word to you." Kevin carefully helped me down the stairs. "So you can be harsh to me at ordinary times?" I narrowed my eyes and gave him an unhappy look. "I wouldn't dare." "What is there that Kevin wouldn't dare to do?" I snorted at him. He said my drawing was like a child's stick figure before. We returned to the consulting room with various examination results. The female doctor habitually pushed her glasses. She looked at the report, and then at Kevin beside me. Her eyebrows wrinkled. I was a bit nervous. I didn't know if there was a problem with my examination report. remembering what the doctor said before that if there was a problem in the middle. Kevin gently held my hand and motioned for me to relax. After a long time, I heard the female doctor speak. Is this the scumbag? The big hand holding mine had increased its strength. A chill came from behind. Without looking back, I knew that Kevin's face was probably as black as a pan. There was no problem with the examination. The doctor just told me to pay attention to rest and diet and keep a happy mood. When I came out of the hospital, although the sun was shining brightly, I felt a bit of chill. Kevin closed the car door, fastened my seat belt for me, and casually put one hand on the steering wheel without any intention of starting the vehicle. I saw somewhat dangerous aura emanating from his beautiful eyes. Cindy, you'd better explain to me. I shrank my neck. I didn't expect the doctor to be so straightforward. You just said you wouldn't be harsh to me. Now you change your mind again. If you're not a scumbag, what are you? What should I do if I make my boyfriend angry? The best way is to find a way to shift the blame to him first. Kevin was stunned for a moment. Obviously, he didn't expect my approach. You are always harsh to me. It will scare the baby in my belly. And the doctor also said that I should keep a happy mood. I pretended to be pitiful and pouted. I took the opportunity to press on. I have to say, this trick is quite effective. Kevin, who was still a bit serious just now, immediately softened his expression. Sorry, there won't be a next time. Finally, as if he remembered something, he gently touched my lower abdomen. Be good, baby. Daddy didn't mean it. Daddy loves mommy very much. I think Kevin is more or less a bit stupid at this moment. What if my daughter thinks I don't want her and won't be close to me in the future? So even in the belly, I can't let my daughter be wronged at all. Kevin skillfully steered the steering wheel and spoke in a good mood. As long as you are happy. While waiting for the traffic light, Kevin rubbed my head. It could be seen that he was in a really good mood. After we went back, we told both parents about this. My mother, Ms. Wang, was extremely angry. If the couple hadn't gone back to their hometown last week, Ms. Wang would probably rush to me immediately and beat me up. But my father was much calmer. Whose child is it? Kevin turned his phone screen towards himself. His attitude was unprecedentedly polite and humble. After a long while, I heard Ms. Wang, who had almost fainted just now, speak. Were you in the same class as Cindy in high school? Not only Kevin but even I didn't expect my mother to know him. If I had known what she was going to say next, I would have chosen to hang up the phone immediately. After coming back from the exam that time in the first year of high school, you were crying so hard. Later, when I was tidying up the room, I saw your diary. Isn't it written about a person named Kevin? Fortunately, my father rescued me in time. Otherwise, Ms. Long would almost read out the diary. Sure enough, a mother-in-law looks at her son-in-law with more and more satisfaction. It hasn't been long. Ms. Wang has changed from being extremely angry with me to praising Kevin. Later, thinking about it, it may be because Kevin is close to people with his wealth. Kevin's parents were even more exaggerated. About an hour after hanging up the phone, the two elders had already appeared at the door. Cindy, right? You are really good-looking. The child will definitely be good-looking in the future. I looked at Mother Song, who was extremely enthusiastic, and gave Kevin a look. Mom, don't scare her. And don't scare my daughter either. Kevin chuckled and pulled me a little closer to him. A daughter is good. I like girls. She won't be as cold as Kevin. I nodded in agreement and received Kevin's slightly warning look. Kevin, if you are too fierce, you won't be able to find a wife. After seeing off the elders of the Song family, I leaned against the shoe cabinet at the entrance and looked at Kevin, who was closing the door with a smile. Didn't I find one? Kevin suddenly came closer. My hand was forced to support the shoe cabinet. He was very close. I could clearly feel his breath gently hitting my face when he spoke. Who is? The words of rebuttal didn't have a chance to be said again. A gentle kiss fell. This time, under the condition that I was completely awake. It was the first time I was so close to Kevin. There was a burning heat rising on my face. A kiss gradually changed from gentle to unrestrained. When it finally ended, I leaned against Kevin's chest and breathed lightly. I heard a soft laugh from above. I pinched him hard on the waist. But because he had been working out all year round, I only pinched a thin layer of skin. The Song family proposed marriage and wanted to hold the wedding before I showed my pregnancy. But I refused. It's not that I don't want to. It's just that there are too many uncertainties. Although Kevin and I have already liked each other for a long time, the days when we are really together are very short. Everything seems to be on fast forward. The unexpected child. There are many things I haven't prepared for. There are many places where we need to adjust. At least in my opinion. Kevin wasn't annoyed when he heard my refusal. Okay. I'll listen to you. In the following time, Kevin came to my company even more frequently every day. And he also sent various foods in different ways every day. Aren't you busy today? Kevin arrived 10 minutes earlier than usual today. I took a sip of the soup he brought over. It tasted really good. No matter how busy I am, I have to serve the two little ancestors well. This is Crucian carp soup just cooked by Sister Liu. Drink more. While speaking, Kevin filled my bowl a little more. Why does it seem like our mother and child are dragging you down? How dare I? This is all my honor. I looked at Kevin's busy appearance. I shook my head. Kevin was getting farther and farther away from his cold and aloof persona. To take care of me conveniently, Kevin moved all my things over. Sylvia was cutting fruits for me while scolding me for being fickle. If you have time to serve this little ancestor, I can stay too. I pointed to my lower abdomen. As the weeks passed, many things became inconvenient. The debtor has a debtor. No one can do this except Kevin. Sylvia raised an eyebrow and looked at Kevin not far away. He was tidying up things with the nanny. I nodded in agreement. I can't bear all this hardship alone. Evan was a young master who didn't even know how to use a washing machine before. Now he can skillfully do housework and use various household appliances. Recently, he has also learned a few special dishes from Sister Liu. When I came out of the bathroom after taking a bath, I saw Kevin leaning against the head of the bed and reading parenting books. He was wearing a dark blue silk pajamas. The same as mine. I couldn't help frowning. Didn't we agree that you would sleep in the guest room? Before coming, he had promised me well, saying that he would never cross the line. It was just to take care of my daily life. This was only the second day. Kevin put down the book in his hand and took the towel from my hand to help me dry my hair. I'm doing this for clothes scare. Kevin, do you want to pick up your face? Kevin just smiled and didn't speak. Then he took out a hair dryer from the cabinet and carefully dried my hair for me. Evan was determined to stay. I couldn't beat him. Eventually, I let him stay. However, I'm not afraid of him doing anything to me. I have this amulet in my belly. He is even extremely careful when holding me to sleep. Kevin coming here doesn't have much impact on me. Only the number of times he takes cold showers has increased. I should have taken precautions at that time. When he came out of the bathroom again, he said with some regret, "Now you know you regret it? It's too late." I proudly raised my eyebrows at him. Who let him deliberately design me at that time? Don't be complacent. There's still a long time to come. Kevin kissed me hard. He was about to leave. Suddenly, I had a naughty thought and put my arms around him and kissed him back. His originally cold eyes became intense again and deepened the kiss. Looking at Kevin, who was holding me and panting at my neck, I said with a mischievous smile, "Kevin, do you want to take another cold shower?" As soon as I finished speaking, I felt a strong pump at my buttocks, neither lightly nor heavily. Then Kevin's hoarse voice rang out, "You'll have a good life in the future. Go to sleep." I thought this was just a harsh word from him. Until later, looking at the gradually brightening sky outside the window, I couldn't help but curse. Kevin is really not human. When I was more than 6 months pregnant, my feet had already started to swell a little. I couldn't wear my original shoes anymore, and my whole body became inconvenient to move. You have to be careful at the company. Don't run around at noon. Stay obediently at your position and wait for me. Kevin squatted on the ground and helped me put on my boots. He was extremely gentle, as if afraid of hurting me. Kevin is really careful. Even my mother said that she couldn't be as careful as Kevin. After putting on the shoes, he took my coat and helped me put it on carefully. Only after making sure I was tightly wrapped did we go out. In the following months, my legs and feet became even more swollen. I often woke up in the middle of the night because of pain. Every time I just woke up, Kevin seemed to sense it and woke up too. He massaged me over and over again tirelessly. Under the dim light, Kevin was gently massaging the swollen places on me from top to bottom. If you feel uncomfortable, call me in time. Don't endure it by yourself. He slightly lowered his head and spoke softly. The bedside light shone on him with an indescribable tenderness. I felt that Kevin had made me too delicate. I couldn't leave him in my life. Kevin. I called his name softly. He looked up. There was a trace of confusion in his beautiful eyes. Let's get married. Yes. At this moment, I am extremely sure that I want to be with him all the time. Kevin's movements stopped. A confusion in his eyes had been replaced by a smile. I heard him say, "Wait a moment." He turned over and got out of bed. Without even putting on his shoes, he ran to the cabinet and took out a sapphire blue velvet box. "Miss G, will you marry me?" He was wearing a black pajamas and kneeling on one knee. The box contained a ring that he didn't know when he had prepared. There was an unconcealable smile in his eyes. His voice was obviously nervous. I didn't expect Kevin to be nervous too. I stretched out my hand in front of him and pretended to be arrogant and turned my head. "Then please, Mr. Song, help me put it on." I felt that Kevin's movements were a little shaky. Obviously, such a simple action took him several minutes. Fortunately, the hands are not swollen. Otherwise, the ring wouldn't fit. After putting on the ring, he let out a gentle breath. "When did you buy it?" I looked at the diamond ring on my hand. "Not bad. This diamond is big enough. I like it. I prepared it after that night. I have been carrying it with me." I thought he bought it quietly recently. I didn't expect that he had prepared it after that night of the high school reunion. "Kevin. Thank you." I gently put my arms around his waist. My voice already had a nasal sound. "I should thank you. Thank you and our baby for appearing in my life." Kevin rubbed the top of my head. His voice was full of endless tenderness. It has to be said that Kevin is efficient. Early the next morning, I was woken up by his voice. I was so sleepy that I couldn't open my eyes. I let him help me get dressed and wash my face. In a daze, I heard him talk about the marriage certificate. When I woke up again after taking a nap in the car had already stopped at the gate of the Civil Affairs Bureau. I just remembered the proposal last night, but I didn't expect it to be so fast. It wasn't until I got to read books that I came to my senses. You should have told me in advance. I didn't even put on makeup. I looked at my plain face in the photo on the marriage certificate and said with some dissatisfaction, "This photo will be with me for a lifetime. My wife is already very beautiful like this." While speaking, Kevin didn't forget to give a hard kiss on my face. I originally wanted to refute him subconsciously, looking at his slightly warning eyes and the red book in his hand. This time I am really his wife.